Fashion is my passion. I'm always talking about Indigenous fashion. I'm like, there's so many wonderful artists out there. You guys have no idea. We get exhausted because we're out here and we're like, hey, we're here. See us. We exist. In these spaces where we're actually non-existent. And it's the truth. We're non-existent in these spaces. So for you to have that feature in Vogue with Deb Haaland, like, that's going down in history. That's like, how do you feel about that?
Oh my gosh, it's been so overwhelming. Just that first day, like leading up to her swearing in, I had no idea when it was going to happen. I just knew that the ribbon skirt that I made for her was for her swearing in ceremony. And it came to the point of like, well, is she even going to be confirmed or not? I was just still in disbelief, like kind of like a pinch me, this is actually for real. Like,
and I was even more excited. I'm like, she's from Treaty 4 territory. I was like, yes, yes. That's amazing. So tell us about that process. Like, how did this come about? Because out here in LA, you want to be featured in these major magazines. You have to be, your designs are usually in a showroom, or you have some amazing stylist who's styling some celebrity.
Yeah, and that's like the most crazy part, right? Where I live right now is in Newtown, North Dakota. It's on the Fort Berthold Reservation. My husband is from here, and he's from White Shield, which is a segment of the reservation. My friend Margaret Yellowbird, she's also from White Shield. She's good friends with Deb Haaland, and Deb had reached out to her and another one of their friend Shane Balkowicz. I don't know if you've ever seen his photography.
I think I did see those where he he like takes you back in time. But like the person is like obviously someone.
Right. So he had photographed Deb Haaland a couple years ago when she traveled here to North Dakota. And so the two of them, had worked with her. And so they're friends. And she reached out, can you help me find a seamstress to help make a ribbon skirt for my swearing in ceremony? And so she reached out to me. And as far as I knew, she was reaching out to a few ladies. And we were to like draw up a design and then just send that in. And then Deb would pick the one that she liked the most.
Wow, that's amazing. Actually, I like that. I really like that.
I colored it, drew it out, exactly how it looks, how her skirt turned out, and she loved it. And I just added in the 4-pointed stars because I kind of put that on almost every design, especially when I feel like it could use a little more I don't know, a little more something. I always just add the stars because they just look pretty with everything.
Is there any sort of symbolism behind the 4-pointed star, or is it just more of like an aesthetic, like it looks to make it look?
Yeah, there's not like any, real teaching or anything big behind it. I've always loved the stars. I love hearing stories about, how people call them the Star Nation or the people of the stars, just beautiful terms like that and stories. I've always been drawn to that. And the 4-pointed star specifically just to me looks awesome.
Yeah, no, I was just gonna say it's probably like your design aesthetic, which I think is beautiful. And I was just raving about you. I was like, oh my God, she's from Treaty 4 territory. And I'm like telling my friends, I'm like, oh, she made all these ribbon skirts. She made like 150 ribbon skirts in support of missing and murdered Indigenous women. And it was in Saskatchewan you handed these out, right? Yeah, so I thought that was like, and my sister mentioned, she's like, oh, hey, I know her. I got one of her skirts. And I was like, oh, that's amazing. That's even more amazing. With Leslie Hampton, she created a dress, which I didn't actually, I'm going to be really honest, like I didn't know or see the dress until somebody else reposted it, explaining how they felt about it, how they were triggered, and you know what I mean? Like they shouldn't be, I guess they felt like it didn't really communicate what they wanted to communicate to the community per se. And when I looked at the image myself with Ashley Collingbow, she's really beautiful. And I thought, wow, she's a beautiful woman, beautiful Indigenous woman and model. And aside from, this whole missing and murdered Indigenous with the dress. I thought the dress alone was very beautiful. What do you think about that? What is your opinion about that?
Well, I feel like it's a really difficult conversation. And I feel like anything regarding the missing and murdered Indigenous women, girls, Two-Spirit movement is going to be sensitive. And I feel like everybody has some sort of connection. Everybody feels something, because especially when you're Indigenous and you've experienced violence in your life, you're definitely going to feel something, right? And I know that because of that, we all want to connect in some way. We all feel like we have to do something. And as artists, and even fashion designers, you feel like you'll do what you can with what you have, which is your gift, your talents, to raise awareness. And on the other hand, there is the Families First movement. This whole process of this movement that's been going on for 30 years, there have been countless family members who have been ignored, who have been harmed, who have been hurt, and who have not ever been invited or involved with any part of, awareness or events or speaking, engagements. And I think that part of the Families First movement is really trying to change those conversations and have families more involved to prevent any kind of backlash or misrepresentation. And I'm going to be honest, I personally did not look at that dress as over-sexualized or being any kind of way, right? But I have never had to see my sister or my mother or my daughter, full of blood, or, for the family members that I spoke to that were really triggered, I don't have that experience. So I can't speak for them. And I can't tell them that, no, this represents you. This shouldn't hurt you. You're making you know what I mean? Sensitive and understanding when it comes to that. And my only thing is that we're coming to a place where it's really important to at least consult with some family members, before we step into that area, because honestly, there's so many experiences. It's such a complex issue that I guarantee somebody's going to get hurt. And every time I made my ribbon skirt, I was nervous too. It's not easy, to do that, because
I think tactfully you were on the mark. Your heart was in the right place, and you did it, purposefully. I think some other people, it's more like a trend, you know what I mean? Like, oh, let me just raise awareness with a fashion show, and everyone's gonna wear a red dress. And then it's like I couldn't, in a situation where that kind of happened, and I was like, they wanted me to paint on the face, like a red hand mark. And I was like, I'm not doing that, because, my sister, indirectly, somebody that I know was also murdered. And so it does affect me. And, and I think in those moments, it's like when we have to just kind of make a stand and say, like, hey, I don't think this is right. This is not, it's one thing to be like, I want to raise awareness, but it's one thing to already, I want to say, bandwagon, don't jump on the bandwagon just for publicity or whatever, you know what I mean? Because I think sometimes those lines can be crossed. And it's a very thin line. These are very thin lines with multiple gray areas where you're like, we have to just we really do have to be careful in considering what we want, what we represent. And especially me out here, that was my mission too. I was like, how can I use my gifts and my talents? And how can I was on a mission. I'm like, I want to create a platform for Indigenous artists, fashion designers. I want to be able to show the world how beautiful we are as people and our art. You know what I mean? And then so I've been running around here 5 years. I'm just finished school now. You know what I mean? And so it's a constant hey, we're here, this is this. And everybody that I ever ran into that saw my jewelry or, oh, where did you get that from? Oh my gosh, it's so amazing. And then it's do they have a website? And I'm like, no, these ones, you can't get these ones online. You know what I mean? And so it kind of made me feel kind of like I had some haute couture, you can't get these. You know what I'm saying? But also there are so many of us out there, you know, so it's like really important. What happened with you, what happened with Deb Haaland, it's very important for our communities as Indigenous women, as Indigenous people in general, you know, just for Indigenous fashion being featured in Vogue Magazine. Like how many people saw that? How many people looked at it was like, oh my gosh, that's a ribbon dress. Like, what is a ribbon dress? And like, you know, I talk to people from not from this country and they don't know anything about Native American people. And so when I talk to them, they're just like, oh my gosh, really? Like they're so intrigued and they just want to know more. And I'm like, okay, that's great.
Something you can probably really relate to is growing up in Saskatchewan, being First Nations has its own difficulties in itself. You know what I mean? And a lot of what I do now is a direct reflection of my my childhood, you know,
Yeah.
experiencing the racism, you know, growing up on the west side in Saskatoon or living on the west side and at one time carrying like a deep-seated shame, you know, and being the daughter of a residential school survivor and a 60 scoop survivor. I just feel like I've had all these layers of healing to do and now coming to a place where I want to be exactly who I am, everything that I was taught. I used to have to like wear skirts, long skirts to like everything, even Christmas dinners and graduations, and I hated it. Like my family just laughs now because they're like, look at you making all these skirts for everybody. We have to wrestle you to get one on you, you know? But I was, you know, so ashamed when I was younger. It wasn't cool to be Native. You know, we carried a lot of shame and things are different. We're seeing a whole different generation, you know, and even to think of a ribbon skirt as fashion is a whole new way of, you know, looking at it and thinking about it. So like from that aspect, it's such an honor to be a part of, you know, that community.
Absolutely. Like I'm seeing it trending. I'm seeing a lot of younger girls wearing them. Like it's a whole look. You know what I mean? And I'm just like, I'm so proud. Like you know, I left Saskatchewan. I was like, I'm getting out of this place. You know, like I have to leave this place. There's nothing can happen for me here. Like that was what, at the time, that was what was on my mind. That, you know, the situation I grew up in, you know what I mean? I was like, I just needed to leave. And then I was always proud to be First Nations, you know what I mean? Like always proud. And I lived in Italy, I lived in Guam, you know, I've been in the military, I traveled quite a few places, and I'm always like, you know, I was always like pro native, like anything to do with native, anything. I was like, yes, because I was like watching from overseas what was happening over here with the Idle No More movements, with all the movements, like, and there wasn't anything I could really do because I was in the military, but I was still, you know, supporting like in my heart. And then I started seeing all of these other movements and all these other people, and I'm just like, this is amazing, because they're thinking what we're thinking, what I'm thinking, you know what I mean? It's like we're the ones that need to be, you know, saying, hey, this is who we are. You know, being myself, as I'll be 41 this year. Literally just finding my voice. Like I was always that, but you know, proud to be Native, but I was that person that just sat quiet at the table. You know, when there was something that needed to be said, I'm like, I should say something. But I never did, you know, and I never did. And I was like, it was like, I'm like in a silent, like people could be talking and I'm like, oh, I really want to say that. But, you know, I started hanging out with like Indigenous activists, like empowered women who were like just at the throat. They were just saying everything from their heart. And I felt it, you know, and I was like, that's what I need to be doing. Like, and, you know, being around people like that kind of help you to be more like that, you know?
Absolutely. Finding your voice is another thing that's like the most empowering thing that you can do. And it like helps heal, you know, your spirit in so many ways. Like finding your voice is a really powerful moment for sure.
Absolutely. And then, you know, you have people in, you know, America who like to tell other people, go back to your country. And I'm just like, I'm over here like, excuse me.
Are we gonna go there?
Yeah, I'm like, and it always cracks me up. Like even when I hear Canadians say that, I didn't want to take so much of your time. I just want to thank you for meeting with me, and very excited to get editing this video.
And I'm really happy for you. Congrats on launching your magazine. It already looks just like so beautiful, professional. It's just like, it looks amazing.
Thank you. It's been 5 years I've been doing all of this and people don't realize, like, as entrepreneurs and business women, or even just a business person, like everything that we've done, or everything that I've done, this has been like 5 years in the making, like going out, doing the work, doing the groundwork, going to school, learning how to develop websites, you know what I mean? Graphic design, being my own makeup artist, I'm having to be everything at this point. But I made a promise to myself, and I was like, Robin, you have to launch this. It's never going to be ready. You just have to do it. And so I'm like, this is what I'm doing. And I'm really happy that I'm able to do this, and that I'm able to share your story as well. So thanks for meeting with me. And I hope you have a really good day.
You too. Thank you so much.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.